Highly Debatable, episode number 23 is live here on the MBL Network, right here on YouTube each and every week. I'm OSU. I'm hanging out with my man, Sonny Weaver. Sonny, 23 episodes, the same number as the great Michael Jordan, the same number as the even greater LeBron James. Isn't that right?
Gotta take those digs. Always those digs. Right? I think Bomber's gonna get enough of them tonight. Maybe lay off. Let him have the GOAT.
Listen, you gotta have some friendly parting shots. Episode number 23 of Highly Debatable, of course, our live video debate show here on the MBL Network. Don't forget, we got MBL Live coming up right after this. That's gonna be over on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/MBL Network. Should be a great game. We'll talk about that a little later. Let's take a look at the scorecard. And Sonny, we took a couple weeks off. You had some time to rest and relax, and you come back to the same old thing, which is OSU kicking your butt all around this highly debatable set. I'm starting to wonder, do people just not like your mug?
So we got to talk about this for a second, people. If you don't give me a fair shake, we're going to lose the score. All right? Just listen to me. We got people out there saying I lost before I've ever even given an answer. That's a problem. Keep it straight. Keep it fair. Don't screw me.
Just remember, folks, hashtag OSU wins. Just never forget hashtag OSU wins. As we've got a great show planned for you tonight, let's get right to it. No more beating around the bush. Let's get to round one. And in round one, it's a return to a favorite, a Sonny Weaver favorite, actually. It's next week's headlines today, where we predict the headlines that will show up in next week's newspapers that cover the MBL. I'll let you go first. What headline are you going to be seeing next week in the newspapers?
Well, it's a big day here in Chicago. They've swept the Detroit Lions. And all I can think of, the headline in Chicago has got to be not Lions, not Vikings, but Bears. Oh, my. Because I think those Bears, they're NFC North champions. I don't know. We'll talk about that maybe later.
Oh, very, very interesting. Here, my first headline is much like Sonny, you're old enough to remember the 1950s, right? Remember?
Yeah, my hairline is.
Yeah, there it is. You remember the 1950s? One of the big music styles coming up. Elvis Presley, rock and roll, of course, has come all the way through. I think the MBL right now is Rossin' and rollin'. That's right, John Ross is having an unbelievable season in Cincinnati. He continues to have big games, especially in the absence of A.J. Green for 6 games. John Ross really stepped up and has carried this Bengals team. And they're just going to keep Rossin' and rolling because I love John Ross and what he can do. He's a matchup nightmare for opposing cornerbacks.
Yeah, John Ross has been killing it with A.J. Green out on suspension. He stepped into that role. I think that's going to be a guy really has a bright future here in NBL.
All right, what's your next newspaper headline you're looking at?
Well, a lot of good things happening in Oakland. No, not really. In fact, that team's been a dumpster fire. But the one good thing happening there is Khalil Mack. But there's some questions about good old Doughboy and slamming on that button. Will he break the sack record? I don't know. But if I'm in Oakland, I think the headline tomorrow is going to be, would you like a big Khalil Mack with cheese? Question mark.
You're playing into my McDonald's love. I'd vote hashtag Sonny wins right now. That's a good plan. My next headline that you're looking at, we got a big matchup this week. It is between the Titans and the Houston Texans, two teams sitting there 5-5, trying to keep their playoff hopes alive. That last wildcard spot in the AFC very wide open, but I think the Titanic is sinking. Titanic. It's going to be a colossal loss. I think the Texans have proved a lot to me. The Titans have been very up and down. This is a big game. I think the Texans come to play, and I think they dash the hopes of those Tennessee Titans. And in case anyone's wondering, there's not enough room on that door for Unisolated. I'm sorry.
Yeah, me and Unisolated, I would say our relationship is a little bit tumultuous. But yeah, that Titanic's going down quick.
All right, what's your last headline you got next week?
I've got one more, and this one's for you, OSU. Those Saints, man, they get the big upset over the Atlanta Falcons, the previously undefeated Atlanta Falcons. And I think they're celebrating down in New Orleans today. And so the headline today down in New Orleans is when the Saints come marching in, because they just marched their butts right into playoff contention.
All right, my last headline, it's another AFC one. I'm looking at that playoff race. There's one team that I think is going to secure their spot in the AFC playoff picture. And it's going to be the Indianapolis Colts sitting there at 7-3. They had a tough NBL Live, but they played the Miami Dolphins this week, who we know all the struggles that they have. I like this Colts team. Maybe their first time under bright lights, they had some struggles, but I think they're going to solidify that spot because they're going to move to 8-3 on the year, and they're going to be singing Down at the Colta Cabana. Shout out to Colt Cabana, by the way. Great wrestler, indie wrestler. Big fan of a lot of people. But I like this Colts team to really solidify that playoff spot.
You know, your 1950s music references have been great.
Hey, the Barry Manilow was the 70s.
At the Copacabana. I love it.
His name was Rico. His name was Rico. I'm just saying. That's all I'm saying. Always fun playing a little episode of next week's headlines, but we got to move on. Let's get to round 2. And in round 2, if you caught last week's episode, you caught Truth or Trash. We decided to bring it in. This is the Truth or Trash 2 Electric Boogaloo. The references keep coming from the 80s, my friend. Let's get to our first Truth or Trash. Sonny Weaver. Truth or Trash. You talked about it in your next week's headlines. The Chicago Bears will win the NFC North as they have completed a sweep over the Detroit Lions. So they have that tiebreaker. Truth or Trash, Chicago will win the NFC North.
You know what? I think I'm going to go with truth. Truth.
You can't say truth.
It's truth and trash. It's truth because Bomber is trash. Ooh, did I go there? I don't know. The Draco defense is back. They're holding down those Lions. And this Bears defense, I think they're going to make a little bit of a run here. I like this team. I like what's going on. There's a good matchup next week. I'm not even going to call it a big matchup because I am the other team. But the Rams will be playing the Lions, and that's a big game for both teams. And I think really when you look at the Bears, they're hot. They're hot right now. And the Lions, they've had some struggles. So, give me the truth on that. I think the Bears win the NFC North.
Oh, no. All right.
Nope. And let's be clear. I have played in the division with Draco. I know how good Draco is. I also have made it a rule here, which, by the way, can we just point out breaking news into the highly debatable newsroom? The Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals tied. That's 2 ties on the year for the Cleveland Browns. So another great tie.
Wait, right below that.
Oh, and the Titans lost 23-0. Good job, OSU. Great pick.
Titanic.
I'm going trash. I've made it a rule. It's sort of like betting against the New England Patriots in the NFL. I don't bet against Bomber. I don't bet against the Lions. They're scheduled down the stretch. They've got the Rams. They've got the Cardinals as well. I just think I was going to, if you didn't have the Bears in next week's headlines, my headline for that would have been Lion in Wait, because I think this Lions team is going to pick it up. I think that they're going to win this division. I know it's a tough task, but they're tied in record right now, so they really just need to be one game better than the Chicago Bears. I think the Lions win out. I think the Bears drop a game. I'm going to say trash on that one. All right. I've lost my screen. Anywho, second truth or trash, Sonny Weaver. Truth or trash, the NFC South will only get one playoff team. Right now, if you look at the standings, I'll give you a little primer. Let you think about that one. Right now, if you look at the standings, Falcons leading that division 9-1-1. The other 2 teams who really have a shot at the playoff, as the Buccaneers are at 4-7. The Panthers and the Panthers are at 6-4. The Saints are at 6-5. The Rams are at 7-4. The Bears are at 8-3. They hold the 2 spots. So 8-3 and 7-4 currently the spots for the wild card. Panthers at 6-4. Saints at 6-5. And the Arizona Cardinals also sitting there at 6-5. So they would have to, basically we're looking at that last spot. Do you think one of those 2 teams, the Panthers or the Saints, jumps the Rams and the Cardinals and gets that final wild card spot, or are they only going to have one playoff team?
I'm going to go ahead and say that is truth. They're only going to get one playoff team in. And here's why. If you look at their schedules, the Panthers play the Saints twice coming up. I think they cannibalize each other, basically splitting one, right? And so they're going to beat up on each other. You look at, obviously, the game tonight that we'll get into is a big one for both the Panthers as well as the Seahawks. I think it's the Seahawks that slide in there. And I think the Saints drop another one down the stretch. Obviously, they did get that win against the Atlanta Falcons. It's a big win. But I'm not sure that high blitzing defense is going to hold up long term. So I'm going to say they only get one, and that is your Atlanta Falcons.
I've gone back and forth on this one because I've seen both these teams a lot.
Just agree with me.
I am going to say it's truth. I think it's truth. I actually think the playoffs as they are set right now, I actually think that's how the playoffs are going to wind out. I think the Bears and the Rams get those final 2 spots. Here's my problem. Saints under new ownership, coming in the middle of the season, it's tough to come in and win a lot. They have a tough schedule down the stretch. I think the Panthers actually win both those games. My problem with the Panthers is I don't know how they score. They don't score a lot, and that's a scary part of a team. Their defense has played fantastic, but Cam Newton has struggled to get the ball into the end zone. I think they're going to get right on the cusp, but I like the 2 teams that are there right now. I'm going to say that is truth. All right, last but not least. And this one, with the news that just came in, is really funny. But there's a team that I've been very big on so far. It's the Cincinnati Bengals. You know, Eric G is my boy. I'm going to say, here's the truth or trash. The Cincinnati Bengals will make the playoffs. Primer on that one. Currently, 6-5, the Texans with their win today, they take that second wild card spot. But the Bengals are at 5-5-1, and the other teams that are competing it are all at 5-6 or 4-6. So the Bengals, right in the mix there. They're going to have to jump the Texans, who have a game on them. But will the Cincinnati Bengals make the playoffs?
Oh, well, I'm going to go with my heart, not my head here, and I'm going to say truth. They make the playoffs. Go Bengals. Who day? I got no real other reasoning. They haven't played great this year. They've found some ways to do stuff after a horrible start, but that offensive line has major concerns. But in the end, I think John Ross, AJ Green just go out and do crazy stuff, and Eric G finds himself in the playoffs and gets bounced first round, just like the Cincinnati Bengals do.
I have been big on this Bengals team. As we mentioned on our 3-hour stream during the Jacksonville Tribute Streamathon, this is a Bengals team that started out 1-8 in the cycle. They won 1 game out of their preseason. In their first 5 games, they won 1 game, but since then, they have been on fire, and they've been putting up a lot of points. They just tied the Cleveland Browns. Their finishing schedule, they've got the Broncos, who are 2-8, the Chargers at 5-6, the Raiders at 3-8, the Browns at 8-1-2. That's not a typo. A lovely 2 in the tie column. And they finish with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the Bengals win 4 out of those 5 games. And they have AJ Green back. I think it's truth. I think Bengals make the playoffs. And look, maybe it's part of me. You know, my love for Eric G and Ross Bonham and the Saints last cycle was so big. I wanted him to win a title. Just didn't quite get there. I think the Bengals have found their groove, an easy schedule down the stretch. And the fact they played without A.J. Green throughout this basically the entire win streak, I like the Bengals to make the playoffs.
Quick caveat here. Yeah. Bananas, man up, play for the win, quit playing for the tie, you scared little girl.
In fairness, I played for the tie when we played. That was my fault. That was totally my fault. I played for the tie. It's totally on me. That'll do it for Truth or Trash. Let's get to round 3. And in round 3, let's talk about NBL Live tonight. Week 12 actions. Seahawks and Panthers. These are 2 teams. A little bit of early struggles for both these teams. The Seahawks and the Panthers, slow starts, but they're sitting there. They're right in the middle of the playoff hunt. My question for you, Sonny, you look at these 2 teams. We're going to play either, neither, or both. Which one, if any, is going to make the playoffs out of these 2, and how much of an impact does tonight's game have on that?
Well, I think it's big because I think for the Seahawks, this is a big game for them to get back into the hunt for the division, that is. And then for the Panthers, they need to solidify. We talked about the schedule coming down the stretch. They've got the Saints. Saints are a tough team. If they want to get into the playoffs, they got to win this game. I'm actually going to go with both. Let's go with both. I think they both get into the playoffs. I actually am going to take the Panthers tonight. I'm going to take the Seattle, obviously, as a wild card because my Rams have to come back and win the division. That's just what has to happen. But I think they both get in the playoffs, and I think you're looking at your 2 wild card teams tonight.
I said in the beginning, I like the two teams that currently have the wild card spots right now to keep the wild card spots. I think the Seahawks come out with a win tonight in a big game, but I like the Seahawks tonight, and because of that, I'm going to stick with what I said. I'm a continuity man. I'm going to stick with what I said in earlier in the show. I'm going to go with neither. I don't think either of these teams make the playoffs, and it's not because they're not good. I've watched this Panthers team continue to put together wins. I like this Seahawks team, but I think the Seahawks. I'll go. You know what? I'll change it. I'll say just the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks hold on to that division. I was looking at their schedule. I think the Seahawks hold on to that division. I think the Rams get the wild card. So I'm gonna go with the Seahawks to make it. I think the Panthers are just on the outside looking in, but watch out for them next year because I think, again, Sonny, it's first season in the cycle. Everybody's sort of figuring it out. Look out for the Panthers next cycle. Why are you laughing?
Porter, good call on that. I don't do these segments in succession. They're all their own unique rounds. So,
But Porter,
whatever.
You only said one NFC. Oh, yeah, listen.
Shout out, Sonny still wins. Anyways, let's keep going.
I don't like your continuity, so guess what? You get the win. That is a pity win if I've ever seen one, Sonny. Be proud of that one. Shout out to Porter. I love Porter. That's going to do it for our three segments. Vote in the chat, hashtag OSU wins, hashtag Sonny wins, but mostly vote on hashtag OSU wins. To keep Sonny sad, let's get to shout outs. It is shout out time here on the MBL Network and highly debatable. Don't forget, MBL Live coming up next, starting a little after 9 o'clock Eastern Time, twitch.tv/MBL Network. Sonny Weaver, who are you shouting out this week on Highly Debatable?
Oh, well, this week my shout out is to my number one fan, Pricey, but unfortunately it's not for something good. It's actually for something so insane as I look through the stats that I had to double check multiple times. I couldn't believe it's true. Pricey is actually scoring the least amount of points per game. OSU, do you know how many points per game Pricey is scoring?
I'm going to guess 15.
Not quite. In fact, it's half. In fact, Pricey scores an average of 6 points a game, folks. The next lowest scoring team is 12 points a game. Pricey has a historically bad offense, and that's rough. That's rough. But you know what? He shows up every day being my number one supporter. So I got to shout out my boy Pricey.
Shout out to Pricey, one of the nicest guys here in the MBL. I'm going to give a big shout out, a little positive shout out. I'm going to give a big shout out to our Grid Developmental League, and here is why. We know at times here in the MBL, spots don't open up for a very long time. It's a grind in the grid. Everybody joins the grid, has a lot of fun in the grid. It's well run. It's a great league, a league that would be rivaled by many other leagues around. But everybody's looking to clamber for that spot. They want to get into the MBL. We've seen a little bit of turnover here at the beginning of the cycle, as we usually do. Beginning of the cycle, people's priorities change, things come up. We've seen a little bit of rotation in. So I want to give a big shout out to everybody out in the grid. You can talk to some of the new guys that have just come in. The wait, it sometimes seems forever. I think when I was in the grid, I waited about 9 months before getting in. It's been longer for some of these guys in the grid, but keep grinding. Do what you can do and prove that you will be a worthy addition to the MBL because the competition is tight. There are 32 guys in the grid all looking to get into the MBL, or somewhere around 27 or something like that. There's some doubles, but you got to just keep grinding and keep rolling, and you never know when a spot's going to open up because, Sonny, I don't think anybody saw any of these spots opening up at the beginning of the cycle. I think this was all the spots that opened up were a pretty big surprise.
Yeah, every year you basically go in thinking, well, they're 32 strong. They'll never open up a spot, and yet life happens. Life comes at you fast. Things happen. Things change. Time just isn't there for people at times, and next thing you know, we lose one, lose two. Sometimes we lose three, really quick succession. And so you could go from being, 3 spots out to being in the league. So keep doing what you do and keep grinding. And one day you will find yourself here, sitting across from me, probably replacing OSU.
That's a fact. Absolute fact. OSU will be dead eventually. Jamie says, when Gort ever going to get a shout out? Shout out to Gort, the world's most annoying mass messenger in GroupMe.
I like how he keeps Bananas down, though.
He does. Hey, Bananas doesn't have any privileges.
No permissions.
Do not forget, folks. Bananas has no permissions. Hashtag kick Bananas out. Hashtag stop tying. What a good episode here of Highly Debatable. Hey, shameless self-plug, Sonny. We're recording another Victory Formation podcast tomorrow.
We are. We do Madden. We do regular football. We have a lot of fun.
check the Victory Formation podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and we'll post the link on Twitter, so make sure you follow at T4Verts. We'll post that link there. But thank you for tuning into Highly Debatable. We will see you next week. Coming up next, do not forget, we got NBL Live, Panthers and Seahawks, a huge battle in the NFC. 2 teams fighting for playoff position. Maybe they're playoff lives tonight. Twitch.tv/NBL Network. That'll be starting a little after 9 o'clock Eastern Time. For my co-host, Sonny Weaver, I am OSU. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next week right here on Highly Debatable.